My name is Peter Sanders. If you're hearing this, then the archives were never sealed as they should have been. Here, we collect fragments of stories that were never meant to surface. Voices caught on tape, memories burned into static. Welcome to the Lost Tapes Department.
They promised it would be simple. A week of observation, nothing more. Sleep as usual, follow the rules, and walk away with more cash than I could make in 2 months at my dead-end job. I remember the way the ad looked when it popped up on my phone. White background, bold black text, clinical but inviting. Participants needed for medical sleep research. Generous compensation. Healthy adults ages 18 to 40. No company logo, no branding, just a phone number and a link. It should have set off alarms. But I was broke, late on rent, and desperate. So I called. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, almost rehearsed. She asked me basic health questions. Did I have trouble sleeping? Did I suffer from seizures, sleepwalking, heart issues? No, no, and no. She thanked me, gave me an address, and told me to arrive at 7 p.m. sharp the following night. I thought it would be in a hospital or maybe a university lab. Instead, the building was tucked behind a row of warehouses on the outskirts of the city. Gray concrete, no windows, no sign out front. Just a metal door with a keypad. Inside, everything was white. White floors, white walls, white fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. A receptionist in scrubs handed me a clipboard without looking up from her computer. The paperwork was dense, filled with paragraphs of legal disclaimers. I skimmed maybe half a page before giving up. I just signed where they told me. By participating in this study, you consent to observation, recording, and monitoring by medical staff at all times. You may not bring personal devices into the facility. You may not leave the facility until the study is concluded. I signed anyway. A man in a lab coat, tall, with thin glasses and a blank smile, led me through a long hallway. Every door we passed was locked, marked only by numbers. We stopped at 14. Inside was a small room with a single bed, a metal table, and a camera bolted high in the corner. Your quarters, he said. His voice was polite but clipped, like someone reading a script. You'll sleep here. Meals will be delivered. There are no clocks. For the integrity of the study, you will not know what time it is. Do not attempt to track time on your own. I nodded, pretending not to notice how the door had a lock on the outside but not on the inside. Another participant was escorted past me as I stepped in. A girl about my age, maybe younger, with short hair and heavy bags under her eyes. She didn't look at me, just shuffled forward like she'd already been here too long. The man with glasses placed a set of folded clothes on the bed. Change into these before sleep. Someone will arrive shortly to attach electrodes for monitoring. And then the door closed. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the clothes. Plain white shirt, gray sweatpants, both crisp and new. I told myself this was normal. Sleep studies needed controlled conditions. Cameras, electrodes, sterile rooms, all standard. The locked doors? Maybe to prevent people from wandering around, interfering with results. But something about the silence pressed too heavy on my ears. No footsteps in the hall. No ringing phones. Not even the hum of ventilation. Just the faint electric buzz of the ceiling light. When the knock finally came, I almost jumped. A woman entered, also in a lab coat. She didn't introduce herself. Just wheeled in a cart covered in wires and sensors. Lie down, she said softly, not unkind but without warmth either. I obeyed. Cold pads pressed against my temples, my chest, my arms. She taped sensors across my scalp, each one tugging slightly at my hair. The machine on the cart beeped with every connection like it was tallying up pieces of me. Do I need to do anything special? I asked. Just sleep, she said. We'll take care of everything else. Then she packed up, wheeled the cart out, and left without another word. The room dimmed automatically a few minutes later, the overhead light buzzing before flickering off. A faint red glow from the corner camera was the only thing left. I lay there staring up at the ceiling. The bed was surprisingly comfortable, the sheets cool against my skin. For a moment, I almost believed this was what they promised. A harmless study, an easy paycheck. But the silence lingered, too deep, too heavy. And just before sleep finally dragged me under, I could have sworn I heard something else beneath it. Faint, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Not mine. The second night was harder. I thought I'd adapt quickly, close my eyes, sleep, collect the cash at the end. But time moves differently when you can't measure it. Without clocks or phones, every minute stretches. The sterile white walls eat at you, and the silence makes your thoughts louder. I tried counting seconds in my head. I made it to what I thought was an hour before I lost track. My mind kept skipping, drifting, doubling back. I'd start over, reach maybe a few hundred, then blank out. At some point the door opened and a tray slid in. Plain food, toast, eggs, fruit. Enough to keep me alive, but nothing you'd eat by choice. I couldn't tell if it was breakfast, lunch, or dinner. My stomach didn't know either. After I ate, I pressed my ear against the wall, hoping to hear someone in the next room. Nothing. But I felt something. A vibration, faint but steady. Like a low hum just beneath the plaster. It was there for hours, constant, until suddenly it wasn't. The silence after was worse. That night, the woman returned with her cart of wires. No words, just cold sensors pressed to my skin. I tried to ask questions. How many participants were there, how long the study would last? But she gave the same answer every time. Just sleep. The lights dimmed, and I lay there staring into the red glow of the corner camera. This time, I didn't drift off easily. I kept hearing things. Scratches, faint footsteps, the whisper of fabric shifting against fabric. Once I thought I heard someone crying far down the hall, muffled and desperate. But whenever I sat up and strained to listen, it stopped. I told myself it was the building settling. Pipes, air vents, normal sounds in an old facility. But then I dreamed. It didn't feel like a dream, not exactly. More like slipping into another room without leaving the bed. The walls around me were the same, but wrong, distorted, breathing in and out, pulsing with veins of light. A figure sat in the corner where the camera should have been, shrouded in shadow, its head tilted as if watching me. I woke with sweat dripping down my neck, heart pounding. The bed was soaked beneath me. The red glow of the camera was steady. Watching. Always watching. The next tray of food appeared sometime later. I tried to wait for the door, but I must have blinked too long. When I opened my eyes, the tray was there. Warm food. Eggs again. Toast again. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't heard it close. That was the first time I noticed the rhythm. I'd eat, lie down, dream, wake, eat again. No daylight, no clocks, just the endless cycle. The food came when it came. The woman with the wires came when she came. And sleep came whether I wanted it or not. On what I guessed was the fourth or fifth night, I asked her, "How long have I been here?" She didn't even pause. Just pressed the sensor to my chest and said, "Longer than you think." My skin crawled. The dreams got worse. The figure in the corner was closer now, the outline sharper. Sometimes it whispered, too soft to catch the words. Sometimes it just breathed. And one time, I swear, it was standing right over me, leaning down so close I could feel heat against my ear. I woke up screaming. The camera's red light blinked once, like it was recording harder, hungrier. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering, and I realized the vibration was back. Only this time it wasn't steady. It pulsed, in time with the whispers from the dream. I don't know how long I stayed like that, pressed against the wall, waiting for something to happen. Hours maybe. Days. Finally, exhaustion won. I slipped back into unconsciousness, and when I opened my eyes again, the tray of food was already there. Only this time the toast was burned black, and the eggs were raw, yolk seeping across the plate like blood. I didn't eat. I just sat there, stomach growling, watching the red glow in the corner, and wondering if they'd forgotten I was human. Or if that was the point. I don't know how many nights had passed when I realized the camera wasn't just watching. It was listening. I'd been whispering to myself for days, small phrases to stay sane. My name, my age, my address, things I didn't want to forget. And one night, if it was night, the red light blinked 3 times in rhythm with my words. I stopped. It blinked once more, slow, deliberate, like a wink. My stomach turned. When the door opened again, it wasn't the woman with the wires. It was someone else, shorter, wearing the same white coat but with a hood pulled low. They didn't speak, just pushed the cart in, attached sensors, and left without even looking at me. The room smelled different after they left. Damp, metallic, like wet pennies. That meal came later, if you could call it a meal. The tray held nothing but a glass of water and a single slice of bread. No eggs, no fruit, just the bare minimum to keep me alive. I stared at the camera. "Why are you doing this?" I asked out loud. "What do you want from me?" The red light blinked twice, then again, then once. It was a pattern, and somehow I understood it. Not the meaning but the intent. It was answering me. I started to dream even before I lay down. My eyes open, but my body heavy like gravity was thicker in the room. The walls stretched and shivered like heat mirages. The red glow smeared into trails, moving across the ceiling like veins. Then I saw the door. It wasn't the same door, the metal one with the keypad. This one was taller, black, and wet-looking. It stood at the far end of the room where the wall should have been, and something on the other side was breathing. I tried to get up, but my legs wouldn't move. I reached for the sheets and realized my fingers weren't attached to my hands anymore. They were bending wrong, curling like roots. I woke up gasping. The room was normal again. The white walls, the metal door, the camera in the corner. But there was a new sound now. A faint scratching from behind the wall where the bed sat. Slow, deliberate, like nails on tile. I pressed my ear to it. The scratching stopped. Then a whisper came through, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. Steve. My name. I stumbled back, knocking the tray off the table. The water spilled across the floor, pooling beneath the bed. My pulse hammered so hard it hurt. I screamed for someone to come. Nobody did. The camera blinked. Once. Twice. Once. Twice. Was laughing. I don't know how long I sat in the corner, knees pulled to my chest, staring at that blinking red light. My head was full of static, like a radio between stations. My stomach cramped with hunger, but the bread on the floor had gone gray, like it had aged a week in minutes. The door opened. This time there was no cart. Just the tall man with the glasses. The one who'd first led me to the room. "You're progressing faster than expected," he said, stepping inside. His voice was wrong. The tone was the same, but underneath it was another voice, like two tapes playing at once. I tried to ask what he meant, but my mouth wouldn't move. My tongue felt too heavy, like it belonged to someone else. He crouched in front of me. His glasses reflected the red glow from the camera, but his eyes didn't. They were completely black. "Soon you'll see it," he whispered. Then he stood, turned, and left. The door shut with a sound like a vault ceiling. I sat there shaking, staring at my reflection in the camera's lens. And for the first time, my reflection didn't blink when I did. I don't know what broke first, my trust in the study or my grip on reality. Maybe both. The room wasn't behaving like a room anymore. Corners didn't stay where they were supposed to. The air carried sounds that didn't belong to empty walls. Sometimes I heard whispers, sometimes scratching, sometimes the unmistakable cadence of my own heartbeat, amplified until it filled the space. And then there were the dreams. Dreams that felt like rehearsals. The black door I'd seen before kept returning, taller each time, its surface pulsing as though something inside it were alive. And always, the breathing. The camera didn't just watch me anymore. It waited. When I pressed my ear to the wall again, I no longer expected silence. Instead, I heard movement, deliberate and slow, like someone dragging their hand across the surface from the other side. Once, I swore I felt the wall bulge against my cheek like flesh instead of concrete. I told myself, "Steve, you signed up for this. You volunteered. They can't keep you forever." But the voice in the wall didn't agree. It called my name again, soft and sing-song. Steve. The hunger was a constant now. They had stopped bringing trays altogether. My stomach cramped so violently I couldn't stand without bracing myself against the bed frame. I wondered if they wanted to see how long I'd last without food, or if hunger was part of the hallucinations designed to push me deeper. One night, or whatever passed for night in that place, the lights went out. Not dimmed. Not flickered. The red glow of the camera was gone. The hum of the vents stopped. The silence was so total that I thought I'd gone deaf. Then the scratching began again. Louder. Closer. I crawled into the corner, pressing my knees to my chest. My breath was ragged, but I couldn't hear it. It was like the room swallowed every sound except the ones it wanted me to hear. And what I heard next froze me in place. A second bed frame groaned in the darkness. Metal squeaking under shifting weight. But there wasn't another bed. I reached blindly across the floor until my fingers touched the sheets of my own cot. And that's when I felt it. Another hand, cold and damp, resting on the same sheet, fingers overlapping mine. I yanked back and scrambled to my feet, pressing against the wall. My eyes strained in the dark, but the blackness was absolute. Then suddenly the light snapped on. The room was empty. Empty, except for the tray on the table. A steaming bowl of soup. Bread. A glass of water so clear it glistened. I rushed toward it, hands trembling, stomach screaming. But the moment I touched the spoon, the soup curdled black. The bread crumbled into dust. The water clouded thick with red. The camera blinked back on. And this time it didn't just glow red. The lens widened, stretching like a pupil dilating, until it looked less like a camera and more like an eye. I staggered back. "What do you want from me?" I yelled, my voice cracking. The wall answered. A seam split open where there had never been a door. No handle, no hinges, just a jagged line of shadow expanding into a passageway. The black door from my dreams was here, inside the study room, glistening like tar. I should have run. I should have pounded on the steel door that had sealed me in since day one. Instead, I walked toward the impossible doorway. Each step sank deeper than the last, as if the floor itself had softened. The air stank of wet earth and copper. My skin prickled. My head buzzed with a pressure that felt like someone was trying to squeeze thoughts into my brain from the outside. "Step through," whispered the voice. It wasn't one voice. It was many, layered, overlapping, some high, some guttural. All of them knew my name. I reached out. My fingers brushed the surface of the black door. It was warm, pulsing faintly, like touching skin over a beating heart. The second I pressed my palm flat against it, the world folded. I wasn't in the room anymore. I was standing in a hallway that stretched forever in both directions. The walls weren't painted or paneled. They were alive. But breathing. The floor pulsed beneath my feet like muscle. And far ahead, down the endless corridor, figures shifted. Tall, thin silhouettes that seemed to lean too much, like broken marionettes. Their heads jerked in unnatural angles, but even from a distance, I knew their faces. They were mine. Dozens of versions of me, distorted, pale, their mouths opening and closing in silent screams. My legs carried me forward even though my mind screamed at me to stop. The air thickened, each breath syrup in my throat. Behind me, the black door closed with a sound like bones snapping. I was trapped. For the first time since the study began, I realized something with total clarity. This wasn't an experiment. It was a harvest. I wanted to believe it was still a dream. The corridor breathed around me, walls twitching as if muscles flexed beneath skin. The air carried a rotten sweet smell, like fruit left too long in the sun. My bare feet stuck to the floor with each step as though it wanted to claim me. But what terrified me most wasn't the setting. It was the shapes. The copies of me. They stood scattered along the corridor, some pressed against the walls, others hunched in the center, swaying gently as if rocked by a silent tide. Each one was wrong in a different way, faces stretched too long, mouths too wide, limbs bent at angles that should have broken bones. And yet, when they lifted their heads, they all shared one detail. My eyes. The same tired blue staring back at me. I whispered, "This isn't real." And every single one whispered it back, voices layered like echoes bouncing from the walls. The sound made my stomach twist. I backed away, but the corridor stretched with me, endless in both directions. The black door I'd come through was gone. No seams. No escape. Then they moved. Not toward me all at once. God, I wish it had been that simple. Instead, they began to shuffle in small, staggered motions. A hand twitching here. A foot dragging there. Some pressed their faces to the walls as if listening. Others clawed at their own skin, pulling strips free with wet, tearing sounds. One of them stepped forward, its head tilting until the neck snapped audibly. The jaw stretched wider, skin splitting at the corners of its mouth. It spoke in a voice that wasn't mine. "Wake up, Steve." The words didn't comfort me. They commanded. I ran. I didn't care if the corridor had no end. I had to try. My breath tore through my lungs as I sprinted past the shifting versions of myself. Hands swiped at me, nails grazing my arms. One grabbed my ankle, nearly dragging me down, but I kicked free, skin tearing in its grip. "Wake up, Steve. Wake up." Their chant grew louder with every step, overlapping until it was a roar. The corridor pulsed harder. The floor softened underfoot, swallowing my heels. The walls quivered as though barely holding themselves upright. And then I saw it. Far ahead, a doorway of light. Not warm light. Not sunlight. It flickered like a failing bulb, harsh and sterile. I pushed harder, ignoring the tearing in my lungs, the hot trickle of blood down my leg. The door grew closer, brighter, until I could almost feel its heat. That's when one of them cut me off. A copy of me, taller than the rest, skin paper thin and veins black as ink, blocked the path. Its face was a mask of stretched flesh, but the eyes were clear. My eyes. It smiled. And then it ran at me. The impact sent us both crashing to the pulsing floor. Its hands were cold, impossibly strong, pinning my wrists. It lowered its mouth toward my ear, breath rancid. "You're not meant to leave." The chant behind us rose into a deafening roar. "Wake up, Steve. Wake up. Wake up." I thrashed, desperate. My hand found something sharp protruding from the floor. Bone, maybe? I didn't care. I drove it into the copy's throat. It shrieked, black fluid spraying across my chest. I shoved it off and ran, half crawling, half sprinting toward the doorway. The light consumed me. When my eyes opened, I was back in the study room. The sterile lights hummed overhead. The bed was in its corner. The table stood empty. For a moment I thought it was over. That maybe I'd finally woken up, that the nightmare had been some cruel hallucination of sleep deprivation. Then I noticed the camera. It wasn't on the wall anymore. It was in the center of the room, resting on the table. Still glowing red. Still watching. I staggered back against the wall, heart pounding. Enough. Let me out. The steel door opened. For the first time since I'd arrived, it swung inward. And standing there was a man in a lab coat. His face was calm, clinical, as if he'd just finished reading a chart. Behind him, I glimpsed a hallway not unlike the one I'd just fled, bright, sterile, but humming with unseen machinery. "Steve Cole," he said. His voice was measured, flat. "You've done very well." I stared at him, trembling. "What the hell is this? What did you do to me?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped aside and gestured toward the hallway. "It's time to wake up." Every instinct screamed not to move. But behind me, the room pulsed once, the walls flexing like lungs exhaling. The floor bulged, softening beneath my feet. I didn't have a choice. I stepped through the door. The hallway stretched on, lined with glass windows. Behind each pane was a room identical to mine. And inside each room, someone else. Dozens of them. Men and women, all strapped to beds or pacing, or staring blankly at cameras glowing red. Some of their mouths moved. I couldn't hear them, but I knew what they were saying. "Wake up." I turned to the man in the lab coat. My voice cracked. "Wyatt, what are you doing?" He smiled faintly. "Studying the harvest." And then he pushed me forward. I stumbled, the hallway spinning, the lights flaring white until everything dissolved. I woke up in my own bed. My apartment. Morning sunlight cutting across the sheets. My phone buzzing on the nightstand. For the first time in weeks, months, I thought I was free. Until I saw the red light. A camera perched on my dresser, watching. Blinking. Recording. And somewhere deep inside my skull, a chorus of voices whispered, soft and endless.
"Wake up, Steve.